Too late. Please, you have to help us. They're hurting my mama. The words shattered the Sunday morning calm like a gunshot. 7 leather-clad bikers, men most people cross the street to avoid, froze mid-bite as a barefoot little girl burst through the diner door, her blue dress torn. Calm down, sweetheart. Who? Where are they? Tell me right now. Out there. The bad men. They have knives. Please, you have to save my mama before it's too late. Jax looked into those desperate hazel eyes and saw his own daughter's face, the daughter he'd lost 5 years ago. The daughter he couldn't save. But maybe he could save this one's mother. 7 bikers moved as one, racing toward the gas station parking lot. What they found there would haunt them forever. A dying woman. A sacred promise. And a choice that would transform a roadside tragedy into something the entire town would never forget. Because sometimes heroes wear leather instead of capes. Sometimes they arrive too late to prevent heartbreak, but just in time to prevent a little girl from facing the world alone. What happened next left everyone in tears. Jax's boots hit the pavement before his brain fully processed what he was seeing. 50 yards. That's all it was. 50 yards from the diner to the gas station parking lot. 50 yards that might as well have been 50 miles. The white sedan sat at pump 3, the driver's door hanging open like a broken wing. A gas nozzle lay abandoned on the concrete, fuel trickling into a dark puddle that shimmered in the morning sun. And beside the car, crumpled between 2 vehicles where no one from the highway could see, lay a woman. Selena. She wasn't moving. Call 911. Jax roared over his shoulder as he dropped to his knees beside her. His hands moved on instinct, checking pulse, airway, breathing. All there, but barely. Her white blouse, the kind someone wears to church on Sunday morning, was soaked crimson from collar to hem. Multiple wounds. Chest. Abdomen. Arms slashed where she'd tried to defend herself. Behind him, Ghost was already on the phone with dispatch. Hammer was scanning the parking lot, looking for the attackers, but finding nothing except a few terrified witnesses huddled by the convenience store entrance. The black pickup truck was long gone. Jax pressed his leather jacket against the worst of the wounds, the one just below her ribs that was pumping blood with each shallow breath. His Marine medic training kicked in, running triage calculations he didn't want to make. Blood loss. Penetrating trauma to vital organs. Shock setting in. Response time. They were too late. He'd known it the moment he'd seen her lying there, but knowing and accepting were 2 different things. Selena. He kept his voice steady, calm, the way he'd spoken to dying soldiers in Afghanistan. Selena, can you hear me? Your daughter's safe. Joanna got help. You hear me? She's safe. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused, fading. Her lips moved. Jax leaned closer, his ear almost touching her mouth. Too late. The words came out on a breath that rattled. Tell her, not her fault. I love. Don't. Jax pressed harder against the wounds even though he could feel her life slipping through his fingers like water. Don't you dare give up. That little girl needs you. You hear those sirens. That's help coming. Just hold on. But Selena's eyes were already glazing over, looking at something beyond him, beyond this parking lot, beyond this world. Her hand twitched once, reaching for something that wasn't there. Reaching for her daughter, maybe. Or for whatever waited on the other side. The ambulance screamed into the parking lot 6 minutes after Ghost's call. 6 minutes that felt like 6 hours. Paramedics swarmed, professional and efficient, starting 4s, applying pressure bandages, loading her onto the gurney with practice speed. Multiple penetrating wounds to torso. The lead paramedic barked into his radio. Female, approximately 32, significant blood loss, BP dropping, pulse thready. ETA to Mercy General 15 minutes. Jack stood, his hands dripping red, watching them work. One of the paramedics, a woman with kind eyes and 20 years of experience written in the lines of her face, met his gaze over Selina's body. She didn't have to say anything. He could read it in her expression. They were already fighting a battle they'd probably lose. "I'm following," Jack said. It wasn't a request. The paramedic nodded. "Mercy, General. Trauma Bay." Jax turned to Reaper, who'd come running from the diner with Joanna still in his arms, shielding the little girl's face against his chest so she couldn't see her mother being loaded into the ambulance. "Stay with her," Jack said quietly. "Don't let her see this. I'll call as soon as I know anything." Reaper's jaw tightened. "Brother, if she doesn't make it." "I know." Jax looked at the little girl clinging to Reaper's leather vest, her face buried against his shoulder, sobbing. "I know." He swung onto his Harley and roared out of the parking lot, following the ambulance's flashing lights toward the hospital. Toward whatever came next. Toward a promise he didn't yet know he was about to make. Behind him, in the gas station parking lot, a puddle of blood was already drying in the September sun. And in the diner across the road, a 7-year-old girl was asking one question over and over. Did they save her? Did they save my mama? Nobody had the heart to tell her the truth yet. That sometimes, even when heroes answer the call, they arrive just moments too late to change the ending. But not too late to change what comes after. The ICU waiting room clock read 1:47 p.m. when Dr. Elena Martinez emerged through the double doors, still wearing bloodstained scrubs. Her face said everything before her mouth opened. 4 hours. 4 hours of surgery. 4 hours of Jax pacing the sterile hallway while Reaper kept Joanna distracted with card tricks and coloring books in the children's area. 4 hours of hoping against the truth Jax had known the moment he'd knelt in that parking lot. "We did everything we could." Dr. Martinez's voice was gentle but direct. The damage was too extensive. Multiple lacerations to the liver, perforated intestines, severed blood vessels. "We stabilized her briefly, but her organs are shutting down. She's asking to see her daughter. You should come now. She doesn't have long." The floor dropped out from under the world. Reaper looked at Jax, then at Joanna, who'd stopped coloring midstroke. The little girl knew. Children always know when death is in the room, even if they don't have words for it yet. "They fixed her, right?" Joanna's voice was so small, so desperately hopeful. "The doctors fixed Mama." Jax knelt in front of her, this child he'd known for less than 5 hours, and felt something crack open in his chest, something that had been sealed shut since the night he'd lost his own daughter. "Your mama wants to see you, sweetheart. Come on." He carried her through the ICU doors, past machines that beeped and hissed, past other families living their own private nightmares, to room 7. Selina lay against white sheets, tubes, and wires connecting her to equipment that was keeping her alive for just a little longer. Just long enough for this. Joanna scrambled onto the bed, careful of the 4 lines, and grabbed her mother's hand. "Mama, I found help. The bikers came. They saved you." Selina's eyes, already distant, already looking at something beyond this world, focused on her daughter. Tears streamed down her pale cheeks. "Baby. My sweet, brave girl." Each word cost her. Each breath was a battle being lost. She looked past Joanna to Jax standing at the foot of the bed. "You came for her." "We came for both of you," Jack said. "I'm dying." Selina's voice was barely a whisper. "She has no one. Her father died before she was born. My family disowned me. There's no one. She'll go to strangers." Her grip tightened on Jax's hand with surprising strength. "Please. I'm begging you. Don't let her be alone." Jax looked at this dying woman, then at the little girl who was about to lose everything. He saw his own daughter's face, Lily, 6 years old, brown curls, gap-toothed smile, lost to a drunk driver 5 years ago. "What's her full name?" "Joanna Marie Thompson." Joanna Marie Thompson, Jax repeated, his voice steady despite the tears burning his eyes. I'm Jax Malone. And I'm giving you my word, your daughter will never be alone. I'll raise her. Me and my brothers. She'll have a family. I promise you. Why? Selena gasped. Why would you? Because I lost my daughter 5 years ago. Car accident. Her name was Lily. She was 6. And I couldn't save her. But I can save yours. I can honor my little girl by protecting yours. That's why. Selena's eyes closed. Fresh tears escaped. Thank you. Thank you. You're an angel. I'm really not. But I'll do right by her. You have my word. Selena turned to Joanna, stroked her hair with trembling fingers. Baby, this man, Jax, he's going to be your family now. He's good. He's strong. You listen to him, okay? Mama, no. Joanna's voice cracked. I don't want a new family. I want you. I know, sweetheart. And I'll always be your mama. Always. Even when you can't see me. She tapped Joanna's chest, right over her heart. Right here. Forever. I love you more than all the stars in the sky. I love you too, Mama. Please don't go. Please. The heart monitor's rhythm stuttered. Changed. Became irregular. A nurse stepped forward, but Jax held up his hand. Let her have this moment. Let them both have this. I'm so proud of you, Selena whispered. My beautiful, brave girl. Her eyes drifted closed. The monitor beeped once. Twice. Then the tone went flat, sustained, endless. The sound of a heart that had fought as long as it could and finally surrendered. Time of death, 2:23 p.m. Joanna's scream echoed through the ICU, a sound of pure, devastating grief that tore through Jax like shrapnel. He pulled her away from the bed, held her as she fought his grip, as she reached for her mother, as she wailed for someone who could no longer answer. And in that moment, in that hospital room that smelled like antiseptic and death, a stranger became family. Not through blood. Not through law. But through a sacred promise made to a dying mother who'd gambled everything on the kindness of a tattooed biker she'd known for 5 minutes. Sometimes family is born in the worst moments. Sometimes love arrives wrapped in leather and grief. Sometimes the most important promises are the ones we never expected to make. Jax carried Joanna out of that room, her sobs shaking them both, and knew his life had just changed forever. He'd made a promise. And Jax Malone always kept his promises. Even the impossible ones. Sandra Mills from Child Protective Services arrived at the hospital chapel at 4 p.m. with paperwork and protocol. She was kind but firm, the way social workers learn to be after too many years of seeing broken children. Mr. Malone, I understand the mother made a verbal request, but you're a stranger. The child needs to be placed in emergency foster care while we... No. Sheriff Tom Bradley stepped between them, his 25 years of knowing Jax carrying weight Sandra's rulebook couldn't match. Sandra, give him 48 hours. The kid just watched her mother die. She doesn't need to be dragged to another stranger's house tonight. Let her have 2 days with someone her mother actually chose. Sandra looked at Joanna, silent, hollow-eyed, clutching a stuffed bear Ghost had bought from the hospital gift shop, and her professional resolve cracked. 48 hours, Mr. Malone. Then we talk about custody. Jax nodded. 2 days to figure out how to keep a promise he had no idea how to keep. His house sat behind the rising Phoenix clubhouse, a small 2-bedroom that suddenly felt completely inadequate for a traumatized 7-year-old. No toys. No bright colors. Nothing remotely suited for a child who'd just lost her mother. Joanna walked in and stood in the middle of the living room, staring at nothing. She hadn't spoken since the hospital. Hadn't cried since those first devastating screams. Just existed in some gray space between shock and grief. Are you hungry? Jax tried. Nothing. Thirsty? Nothing. Do you want to? I don't know, watch TV. She just blinked, clutching the bear tighter. Jax's phone buzzed. The club group chat was exploding. Ghost was already on his way with food. Hammer was bringing clothes his niece had outgrown. Reaper's girlfriend was sending a list of things kids needed. Axel was asking what 7-year-olds even ate. They didn't know what they were doing either. But they were trying. That had to count for something. Okay. Jax knelt in front of her, eye level. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to sleep in my room. I'll take the couch. There's a bathroom right through that door. If you need anything, anything at all, you call for me. I'll hear you. I promise. Still nothing. But she let him lead her to the bedroom. By 9 p.m., Ghost had brought enough food to feed an army. Hammer delivered 3 bags of clothes and pajamas. Axel showed up with coloring books and crayons because kids like that stuff, right? Joanna picked at 3 bites of mac and cheese and pushed the plate away. She changed into pajamas without being asked and crawled into bed, the stuffed bear tucked under her chin. Jax sat in the chair beside the bed until her breathing evened out, then retreated to the couch where sleep refused to come. What had he done? He didn't know how to be a father. Not anymore. Not since Lily. He could rebuild carburetors and throw a punch and ride a Harley through a thunderstorm, but a grief-shattered little girl who just watched her mother die. He was in over his head. At 2:17 a.m., Joanna's scream ripped through the house. Jax was in the bedroom before he was fully conscious, instinct taking over. She was thrashing in the sheets, eyes closed, trapped in some nightmare he couldn't reach. Mama. The bad man. The knives. Mama, wake up. Joanna. Hey, sweetheart. He touched her shoulder gently. It's Jax. You're safe. You're at my house. The bad men can't hurt you here. Her eyes flew open, wild and disoriented. For a second, she didn't recognize him. Then she launched herself at him, tiny arms wrapping around his neck, face buried in his shoulder, sobbing. I want my mama. I want my mama. Please, I want my mama. The words broke something in Jax's chest. I know, kiddo. I know. I can't bring her back. I wish I could. But I'm here. And I'm not going anywhere. Promise. I promise. She fell asleep in his arms, exhausted from grief. Jax stayed there all night, sitting up against the headboard, holding this stranger child who was now his responsibility. His promise. His purpose. When dawn light crept through the window, Joanna stirred, looked up at him with red-rimmed eyes, and spoke her first word since the hospital. You stayed. I told you I would. Nobody ever stays. Jax's throat tightened. I do. That's the difference between me and the people who hurt your mama. I make promises and I keep them. She studied his face, this tattooed biker with a scraggly beard and eyes that had seen too much, and must have found something there worth trusting. Okay, she whispered. Okay. It wasn't healing. It wasn't acceptance. It wasn't anything close to okay, really. But it was the first tiny step toward survival. Toward learning to exist in a world where the person who was your everything was gone. And sometimes, that's all you can ask for on the first night. Jax carried her to the kitchen and made pancakes that were slightly burnt. She ate 4 bites. Progress. Outside, 6 Harleys pulled into his driveway. His brothers, bringing coffee and support and the unspoken promise that Jax wasn't doing this alone. Because that's what my family did. Even when family was forged in hospital rooms and kept together by impossible promises. Even when none of them had any idea what they were doing. They'd figure it out. Together. Have you ever seen a stranger become family? Joanna and Jax's journey is just beginning, and what comes next will remind you why love is worth fighting for. If this story is touching your heart, hit that like button, subscribe and drop a comment. The rising Phoenix MC moved with military precision when it came to protecting their own. And Joanna, whether she knew it yet or not, was theirs now. Within 3 days, Jax's house transformed. Outlet covers appeared. Cabinet locks. Corner guards on every sharp edge. Hammer installed a nightlight that projected stars across the ceiling because his sister said traumatized kids needed something beautiful to look at in the dark. Ghost stocked the pantry with kid-friendly food. Axel built a bookshelf and filled it with stories about brave girls and happy endings. Sandra Mills arrived for her home inspection on day 5 with a clipboard and a skeptical expression that softened when she saw what these rough men had created. A safe space. A child's room painted soft lavender by bikers who'd spent 3 hours debating the right shade. Stuffed animals arranged on the bed. A routine chart on the wall written in Reaper's surprisingly neat handwriting. "This is impressive, Mr. Malone." "It's Jax. And I had help." He nodded toward the window where 6 Harleys sat in the driveway, his brothers waiting to hear if they'd done enough. The background checks came back clean. The psych evaluation was harder, Jack sitting across from a therapist, talking about Lily, about the guilt he'd carried for 5 years, about whether he was trying to replace his daughter or honor her by saving someone else's. "You're not replacing her," Dr. Lisa Chen said gently. "You're creating space for both grief and love to exist. That's healthy. That's healing." She agreed to take Joanna as a patient. Twice a week, Jax drove the little girl to her office with soft chairs and toys and a woman who spoke in calm tones about big feelings. Progress came in fragments. Week 2, Joanna ate an entire meal, chicken nuggets and apple slices, without prompting. Week 3, she looked at Jax over breakfast, studied his tattooed arms and scraggly beard, and said, "You look like a pirate." He'd laughed until tears came, and she'd almost smiled. But the real breakthrough came after Selena's funeral. They buried her at Peaceful Garden Cemetery on a gray October morning. The service was small, just the club, Sheriff Bradley, Detective Morrison, a few of Selena's co-workers. No family, because Selena had told the truth. She'd had no one. Joanna stood at the graveside in a black dress, holding Jax's hand. She didn't cry. Just stared at the casket being lowered into the earth with empty eyes. "She's cold in there," Joanna whispered. Jax knelt beside her. "That's not really your mama in there, sweetheart. Not the part that matters. The part that loved you, that made you feel safe, that part can't be buried. That lives here." He tapped her chest, just like Selena had. "Right here, forever." "How do you know?" "Because my little girl died 5 years ago. Her name was Lily. And I carry her with me every single day. She's not gone. She's just here differently." Joanna looked up at him with those hazel eyes that held too much understanding. "Does it stop hurting?" "No. But you learn to carry it. And it helps when you're not alone." That night, unable to sleep, Jack sat in his garage at midnight with a photograph of Lily and his wife Sarah. Both gone. Both taken too soon. The tears came before he could stop them. 5 years of grief he'd kept locked away finally breaking through. He didn't hear Joanna until she was standing right in front of him. "You're crying." He quickly wiped his face. "Sorry, kiddo. I was just thinking about your little girl." Joanna sat down beside him on the concrete floor. "The one who died." "Yeah." "What was her name?" "Lily. Lily and Malone. She was 6. I'm 7. "I know." Joanna picked up the photograph, studied it with the seriousness only children possess. "She was pretty. She was. Inside and out. Like your mama. Do you think they're together? Wherever they are?" Jax's throat tightened. "I hope so. I think maybe they're watching over us. Making sure we're okay." "I don't think I'm okay yet." "Me neither, kiddo. But we're working on it." Joanna leaned against his shoulder, The first time she'd initiated physical contact. The first time she'd chosen comfort instead of just accepting it. "I'm glad Mama found you," she whispered. Even if it was too late for her. It wasn't too late for me. Jax wrapped his arm around this orphan child and let himself weep. For Lily. For Selena. For all the things that were lost and all the impossible things they were trying to build from the wreckage. "You know what your mama told me," he said after a while. "She said I was an angel. I told her I really wasn't. But maybe we can be angels for each other. Maybe that's how this works." Joanna nodded against his shoulder. "Okay. Yeah. I'd like that." When dawn came, they were still sitting there. Two broken people learning that broken pieces can fit together if you're gentle enough, patient enough, brave enough to try. Sandra Mills called that afternoon. "Mr. Malone, I'm recommending approval for guardianship. Court date in 2 weeks. Congratulations." Jax looked at Joanna coloring at the kitchen table, her tongue poking out in concentration, and felt something he hadn't felt in 5 years. Hope. Maybe they could actually do this. Maybe promises kept in hospital rooms could become something real. Something lasting. Maybe too late for one thing meant just in time for another. He was willing to find out. Judge Patricia Reeves signed the guardianship papers on a Thursday morning in November, making official what had already become true. Joanna Thompson was now legally Jax Malone's daughter in every way that mattered. "Congratulations, Mr. Malone. She's yours." Joanna, sitting beside him in her best dress, slipped her hand into his. "Does this mean you're stuck with me forever?" "Forever and then some, kiddo." 2 weeks later, Oakwood Elementary got its most memorable student escort in school history. 7 Harleys rumbled into the drop-off zone at 7:45 a.m., chrome gleaming in the autumn sun. Jax helped Joanna out of his truck while his brothers formed a protective semicircle around her. "Do you want us to walk you in?" Jax asked. Joanna looked at the other kids staring, some scared, some amazed. She straightened her backpack and lifted her chin. "Yeah, I do." So 7 bikers walked a second grader into Oakwood Elementary like she was the president. The other kids thought it was the coolest thing they'd ever seen. Joanna's teacher, Mrs. Patterson, just smiled and said, "Well, that's certainly one way to make an entrance." For 3 weeks, life almost felt normal. Homework at the kitchen table. Sunday visits to Selena's grave. Therapy with Dr. Chen. Joanna even laughed, really laughed, when Ghost tried to teach her poker and she beat him 3 hands straight. Then Detective Morrison called. "We found him. Marcus Kane. Traffic stop in Nevada for a broken taillight. Ran his plates, came back wanted for murder. He's in custody. Extradition approved. Trial scheduled for January." Jax closed his eyes. He'd known this day would come. Had hoped it would. But now that it was here, all he could think about was how to tell Joanna that the monster who'd killed her mother was coming back. She took it worse than he'd feared. "No." She backed away from him, shaking her head violently. "No, he can't come back. He'll find me. He'll hurt me like he hurt Mama." "Joanna, listen to me. What if he gets out? What if the police can't hold him? What if he comes here?" Her breathing came in panicked gasps. "I don't want to see him. I don't want to talk about it. Please don't make me." Jax pulled her into his arms, held her while she shook. "Nobody's making you do anything you can't handle. And that man is never, ever getting close to you. You hear me?" But she couldn't hear him over her own terror. That night, the entire Rising Phoenix MC showed up at Jax's house. 20 riders. 20 men who decided this little girl was worth protecting. Bull, the club president, knelt in front of Joanna. "You know what you've got now that you didn't have when your mama was running." She shook her head. "An army. 20 bikers who will ride through hell itself before we let anyone hurt you. You think one coward who attacks women is getting past all of us. But what if? Reaper cut in. There is no what if. You've got Jax. You've got us. You've got Sheriff Bradley. You've got an entire town that knows your story and loves you. That man is going to prison for the rest of his life. And even if something went wrong, he'd have to go through every single one of us to get to you. Hammer added, and sweetheart, we don't lose. Joanna looked around at these rough men with their leather and tattoos and fierce loyalty. You'd really protect me. All of you. Already are, Ghost said simply. Have been since the day you ran into that diner. That hasn't changed. Won't ever change. Over the next weeks, they prepared her as gently as they could. Dr. Chen worked with Joanna on coping strategies for testifying. Detective Morrison explained the trial process in kid-friendly terms. Jax practiced with her, playing the role of the defense attorney so she'd know what to expect. What did you see that morning, Joanna? Her voice was small but steady. I saw the bad man hurting my mama. He had a knife. I ran to get help. And you got help. I found Jax. He came. He tried to save her. He did save something, Jax corrected gently. He saved you. The night before the trial, Joanna couldn't sleep. She found Jax in the garage at midnight, cleaning his Harley because his hands needed something to do. I'm scared, she admitted. I know. That's okay. Brave people get scared. They just don't let it stop them. What if I mess up? What if I can't remember? Jax set down his rag and pulled her onto his lap. Then you mess up. It's okay. The important thing is you're telling the truth. And you're not doing it alone. I'll be right there. The whole time. I'm not leaving that courtroom, not for a second. Promise. Promise. You and me, kiddo. That's the deal. I show up. Always. She wrapped her arms around his neck. Okay. I can do this if you're there. You can do this because you're brave. I'm just the backup. But they both knew the truth. They were each other's backup now. Two people who'd lost everything learning that sometimes what you find in the wreckage is exactly what you needed all along. The trial started Monday. Marcus Kane would finally face justice. And Joanna would face a nightmare with an army of leather-clad guardians standing behind her. Some shadows, when you shine enough light on them, disappear forever. This one was about to. The courtroom smelled like old wood and broken promises. Jack sat in the witness box on a January morning while rain hammered the windows, his tattooed hands gripping the armrests as the prosecutor walked him through the worst day of his life. Mr. Malone, can you describe what you found when you reached the gas station parking lot? He could. In detail that would never leave him. Selena Thompson was lying beside her vehicle, multiple stab wounds to the chest and abdomen. Massive blood loss. I applied pressure to the wounds and called for an ambulance, but I knew, from my training as a Marine medic, that the injuries were likely fatal. And what did Mrs. Thompson say to you? Jax's jaw tightened. Too late. Tell her it's not her fault. I love. Those were her last coherent words. Across the courtroom, Marcus Kane sat in an orange jumpsuit, his face expressionless. The same man who'd stabbed a woman to death while her daughter hid in a diner bathroom. The same coward who'd fled the scene and spent 3 months running before a broken taillight brought him down. Jax locked eyes with him. Kane looked away first. Cowards always did. The defense tried to paint it as a crime of passion, a relationship gone wrong, a man pushed too far. The prosecutor destroyed that narrative with phone records showing Kane stalking, restraining orders he'd violated, witnesses who'd heard him threaten Selena's life. And then they played Joanna's video testimony. Judge Reeves had spared her from appearing in person, allowing Dr. Chen to record her statement in a safe environment. But watching that footage in open court was still gutting. Joanna, small and serious, sitting in a chair too big for her, clutching her stuffed bear. Can you tell us what you saw that morning, Joanna? Her voice was steady, but her hand shook. I was in the bathroom at the gas station. When I came out, I saw the bad man hurting my mama. He had a knife. There was blood. I was scared, so I ran across the road to the diner. I found the bikers. I asked them to help. They came really fast. But it was too late. Too late for what? Too late to save my mama. She died at the hospital. Do you see the man who hurt your mother in this courtroom? She nodded, eyes filling with tears. Yes. Him. She pointed at the screen, at Marcus Kane's photo. He's the bad man. The jury deliberated for 90 minutes. When they returned, the forewoman stood. In the case of the state versus Marcus Kane, on the charge of first-degree murder, we find the defendant guilty. Kane's face went white. Jax let out a breath he'd been holding for 4 months. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. Judge Reeves looked at Kane with the cold fury of someone who'd seen too many men like him destroy too many women like Selena. Mr. Kane, you stalked, terrorized, and ultimately murdered Selena Thompson in front of a gas station in broad daylight, leaving her 7-year-old daughter orphaned. You have shown no remorse. No understanding of the devastation you've caused. This court sentences you to life in prison without the possibility of parole. May you spend every day of that life thinking about the woman you killed and the child you traumatized. The gavel fell. Marcus Kane was led away in chains. He'd die in prison. Justice, for once, had teeth. Outside the courthouse, rain still falling, Jax knelt beside Joanna. The press wanted a statement, but they could wait. This moment was theirs. Is it over? She asked. It's over. He's never getting out. Never. She was quiet for a long moment, watching rain puddle on the courthouse steps. Finally, does this make Mama rest in peace? Jax pulled her close. Yeah, sweetheart. I think it does. I think she's watching right now, proud as hell of how brave you were. Do you think she's mad I have a new family? That I'm happy sometimes even though she's gone? His throat tightened. No, baby. She wanted this for you. That's why she trusted me. She wanted you to be safe and loved and happy. That's what mamas want. Always. Joanna wrapped her arms around his neck. I miss her every day. I know. That's okay. Missing her means you loved her. And that love doesn't go anywhere just because she's gone. You carry it forward. You carry her forward. They stood there in the rain, this biker and his daughter, not by blood, but by choice, by promise, by love forged in the worst moments and tempered by the best. The trial was over. Marcus Kane would rot in a cell. But that didn't erase what he'd taken. It didn't bring Selena back. It didn't undo the trauma or erase the nightmares or fill the hole her death had left. Justice doesn't heal. It just stops the bleeding long enough for healing to begin. And they were ready. Finally ready. To stop looking back at what was lost and start looking forward at what they'd found. Each other. A family built from ashes. A future that Selena had given them with her last breath and her final act of trust. Come on, kiddo, Jack said, standing. Let's go home. Joanna took his hand. Yeah. Let's go home. And they did. Together. The way they'd face everything from now on. Together. Spring came slowly that year, but it came. And with it, small miracles that looked like ordinary life. Joanna's 8th birthday fell on a Saturday in March. She'd told Jack she didn't want a party. Birthdays were something Mama did, and celebrating without her felt like betrayal. But Jax had learned something about grief in the months since Selena died. You had to make space for both sadness and joy, or the sadness would consume everything. Your Mama loved your birthdays, right? He asked the night before. She made them special. Homemade cake, presents wrapped in newspaper comics, treasure hunts around our apartment. Then she'd want this one to be special too. Different. Maybe. But special. He knelt in front of her. We can be sad she's not here and still celebrate that you're here. Both things can be true. So the Rising Phoenix Clubhouse transformed into Party Central. Ghost hung streamers. Hammer baked a lopsided chocolate cake that tasted better than it looked. Reaper organized a treasure hunt that led to a bicycle with a purple frame and streamers on the handlebars. 20 bikers sang Happy Birthday off-key while Joanna laughed, really laughed, for the first time since the hospital. When she blew out the candles, Jax asked what she'd wished for. I wished Mama could see this. Could see I'm happy again. Bull, standing nearby, said quietly, Bet she can, kid. Bet she's watching right now, proud as hell. Joanna smiled through tears. You think? Know it. Sundays became sacred. Every week, without fail, Jax and Joanna visited Peaceful Garden Cemetery. They'd bring fresh flowers, usually daisies, Selena's favorite, and Joanna would sit on the grass beside her mother's headstone and talk. Hi, Mama. It's me. I got an A on my spelling test. Mrs. Patterson said I'm the best reader in 2nd grade. Jax is still a terrible cook. Last night he burned spaghetti. I didn't know you could burn spaghetti, but he found a way. He's trying though. He really is. She'd tell Selena about her friends, about learning to ride the bike Axel taught her on, about the stray dog that had shown up at the clubhouse and refused to leave. We named her Hope. Jack said that's what you gave me, hope for the future even when everything was dark. She's a good dog, Mama. You'd like her. She sleeps on my bed and doesn't judge when I have nightmares. The nightmares were coming less frequently now. Once or twice a week instead of every night. Dr. Chen said that was progress. Said Joanna was processing the trauma in healthy ways, that having a stable, loving home made all the difference. You're doing good work, Mr. Malone, Dr. Chen told Jax after one of Joanna's sessions. She's healing. Slowly, but she's healing. We both are, he admitted. One afternoon in late summer, Joanna was helping Jax work on his Harley when she said, without looking up from the wrench she was handing him, Emma asked if you're my dad. Jax's hand stilled. What did you say? I said you're my Jax. That you promised my mama you'd take care of me, and you keep your promises. Is that okay? That's more than okay, kiddo. That's perfect. She looked up at him, grease smudged on her cheek. My Jax. Not just Jax. My Jax. Because you're mine now, right? And I'm yours. His throat went tight. Yeah, sweetheart. You're mine and I'm yours. That's the deal. Good. She went back to organizing tools like she hadn't just carved another piece of healing into both their hearts. Because I think Mama would be happy I have you. I think she'd say she picked good. She did. She picked the best, bravest kid I've ever met. I meant she picked good with you, dummy. Jax laughed, pulled her into a hug despite her protests about the grease. Yeah, maybe she did. That night, tucking her into bed, Hope curled at her feet. Joanna said sleepily, Jax? I'm still sad about Mama. I think I'll always be sad about Mama. That's okay. Sad doesn't mean broken. It just means you loved her. Still love her. But I'm happy too. Is that weird? Being sad and happy at the same time? No, kiddo. That's called healing. That's called living. You get to be both. She nodded, eyes already closing. Okay. Love you, Jax. He froze. First time she'd said it. First time she'd given him words to match what they'd been building for 10 months. Love you too, Joanna. More than you know. By the time he reached the door, she was asleep. Hope lifted her head, tail thumping once against the blanket, then settled back down. Guardian and friend and proof that even the strays find home eventually. Jack stood in the hallway for a long moment, letting himself feel it all. The grief. the love. The impossible gift Selina had given him with her dying breath. A daughter. Not by blood, but by choice. By promise. By all the small moments that add up to family. He'd promised Selina that Joanna would never be alone. What he hadn't expected was that keeping that promise would mean he'd never be alone either. Healing wasn't linear. Some days were harder than others. Some nights the nightmares came back. Some moments the grief crashed over them like a wave. But they had each other. And hope. And 20 leather-clad uncles who'd ride through hell for either of them. And slowly, so slowly you almost couldn't see it happening, they were learning to do more than just survive. They were learning to live. From "They're hurting my mama" to "I love you, Jax, this is what healing looks like. Slow. Beautiful. Real. Tell us in the comments, which moment hit you the hardest? The first nightmare? The garage where they cried together? The My Jax moment? If you're not subscribed yet, click that button. We've got more stories that will restore your faith in humanity. Stick with us. You won't want to miss what happens next. The rumble started at dawn. 300 motorcycles from 5 states converging on Highway 17, chrome gleaming in the September sun. A year had passed since Selina Thompson died in a gas station parking lot. A year since a little girl's desperate cry for help changed everything. The Rising Phoenix MC had organized the memorial ride with military precision. Registration fees, sponsorships, donations, all proceeds going to the county domestic violence shelter. They'd raised $42,000. Enough to fund operations for 6 months. Enough to save lives the way they couldn't save Selina's. Jax adjusted Joanna's helmet, checking the strap twice. She'd ride with him, tucked safe between his arms the way she'd ridden a dozen times before. But today was different. Today wasn't just a ride. It was a tribute. A memorial. A promise kept in public. You ready, kiddo? She nodded, clutching the rolled canvas under her arm, a portrait she'd painted in art class with Dr. Chen's encouragement. Selina's face, smiling, surrounded by daisies. At the bottom, in Joanna's careful lettering, she was brave when it mattered most. The route wound through town, past Sally's diner where this story started, past the gas station where it almost ended. 300 engines roaring in formation, a thunder that announced, "We remember. We honor. We protect." They ended at Peaceful Gardens Cemetery where a temporary stage had been erected near Selina's grave. News cameras. Community members. Survivors of domestic violence who'd found courage in Selina's story. The mayor. Sheriff Bradley. Dr. Chen. Teachers from Joanna's school. And at the center of it all, Joanna Marie Thompson, 8 years old, stepping up to the microphone. Her voice shook at first, then steadied. My mama's name was Selina Grace Thompson. She was beautiful and kind and brave. When a bad man tried to hurt her, she told me to run. To get help. She saved my life by telling me to find the biggest, scariest people I could see. The crowd laughed softly. Every biker there smiled. I found them. I found Jax and his brothers. They came running. They tried to save my mama, but they were too late. She died that day in the hospital. But before she died, she did something really brave. She looked at Jax, a man she'd just met, and asked him to take care of me. She trusted a stranger to love me when she couldn't anymore. Jax stood at the edge of the stage, watching this little girl who'd become his daughter find her voice. And he kept his promise. He kept me safe. He kept me fed, even though his cooking is terrible. More laughter. He kept me loved. He gave me a family. 20 uncles who ride motorcycles and teach me card tricks and help with homework. A dog named Hope. A home where I don't have to be scared. She looked directly at Jax. My mama was brave when it mattered most. She ran from the bad man. She protected me. And when she knew she was dying, she made sure I wouldn't be alone. That's what real love looks like. Joanna turned to the shelter director standing beside the stage. "This is my mama." She unrolled the portrait. "I painted her so the women at your shelter know that someone cares. That someone sees them. That even when things are really, really scary, there are people who will help if you ask." She handed over the canvas. The director, tears streaming, hugged her. "We're calling it the Selena Thompson Memorial Fund," the director announced. "Thanks to this community and these remarkable bikers, we can help 40 more women escape violence this year. 40 more children who won't lose their mothers. That's Selena's legacy. That's what her bravery created." 300 bikers stood as one. Not in silence, that wasn't their way. They revved their engines, a thunderous tribute that shook the cemetery ground and echoed across the valley. A sound that said, "We remember. We honor. We continue." Joanna walked to her mother's grave, knelt in the grass, and placed fresh daisies against the headstone. Jax knelt beside her. "You did good, Mama," Joanna whispered. "You picked the right person. He loves me exactly how you would have. I'm okay. We're okay." The wind rustled through the cemetery trees, warm and gentle. "She heard that," Jack said softly. "Wherever she is, she heard it." "I know." Joanna leaned against his shoulder. "She's proud. I can feel it." They stayed there while the crowd dispersed, while bikers mounted up and rode off, while the sun climbed higher in a sky so blue it hurt to look at. Two people who'd found each other in the worst moment, who'd built a family from grief and promises and daily acts of love. Bull approached, grizzled and tough, eyes suspiciously wet. "She'd be proud of both of you. You know that, right?" "Yeah," Jack said, his arm around Joanna. "I think we do." As they walked back to his Harley, Joanna said, "Next year, can we do it again? The ride?" "Every year, kiddo. For as long as you want. We keep her memory alive. We help other people the way we wish someone could have helped her." "Good." She climbed onto the bike, settled into position. That's what Mama would want. For her story to save other people. Jack started the engine. 300 bikers had come to honor one woman's courage and one little girl's survival. They'd raised money. They'd raised awareness. They'd raised hope. But more than that, they'd proven something Selena had bet her daughter's life on, that sometimes the scariest-looking people have the biggest hearts. That leather and tattoos can hide angels. That family isn't who you're born to, it's who shows up when you need them most. And keeps showing up. Every day. Forever. The ride home was peaceful. Joanna's arms wrapped around Jax's waist. Hope waiting at the house. Sunday dinner with the club planned. Life continues forward while honoring what was lost. Healing and remembering. Together. The way it should be. The way Selena had made possible with her final act of trust. 10 years changed everything and nothing. Jack sat in the front row of Oakwood High's outdoor graduation ceremony, his beard now more gray than brown, his hands weathered but steady. Beside him, the same brothers who'd stood with him in that diner parking lot a decade ago. Older now. Grayer. But still showing up. Still family. On stage, 17-year-old Joanna Thompson Malone adjusted the microphone. Valedictorian. Full scholarship to State University. Plans to study social work because, as she told Jax, someone helped me when I needed it most. Now it's my turn. Her honey blonde hair was pulled back in a braid Jax had finally mastered after 7 years of practice. She wore her mother's locket, the only thing Selena had been wearing that day that hadn't been destroyed. Inside, a photo of Selena on one side, Jax and Joanna on the other. Past and present. Together. 10 years ago, Joanna began, her voice steady. I lost my mother to violence. The audience went quiet. Everyone in town knew the story. The little girl. The bikers. The promise kept. I was 7 years old, terrified, watching the worst thing imaginable happen. I ran to a diner full of strangers and screamed for help. And a group of men society often crosses the street to avoid, men with leather vests and tattoos and motorcycles, they heard me. They came running. They tried to save my mother's life. Jax's throat tightened. Reaper's hand gripped his shoulder. They were too late to save her. She died that day. But in her final moments, my mama did something extraordinary. She looked at Jax Malone, a man she'd known for maybe 5 minutes, and asked him to raise her daughter. To keep me safe. To make sure I wasn't alone. Joanna's eyes found Jax in the crowd. And he said yes. This stranger looked at a dying woman and promised her something impossible. That her 7-year-old daughter would have a family. Would be loved. Would be okay. A tear escaped. She didn't wipe it away. For 10 years, he's kept that promise. He taught me to ride a bike and do algebra and change motorcycle oil. He sat through countless therapy sessions and nightmares and grief that seemed like it would never end. He learned to braid hair from YouTube videos and burned more dinners than anyone thought possible. He showed me that family isn't about biology, it's about who shows up when you're broken. Who stays when it's hard. Who keeps promises even when they're impossible. Jax was crying now, not bothering to hide it. Bull beside him was too. They all were. My mama was brave. She protected me, even dying. She chose the right person to trust. And Jax, my dad in every way that matters, he honored that trust. He taught me that even when the world is cruel, there are people who will fight for you. Who will love you. Who will keep promises made to dying mothers in hospital rooms. She paused, composing herself. Mom, wherever you are, I kept my promise too. I survived. I thrived. I'm making you proud. And I'm going to spend my life helping other kids like me. Other families are running from violence. Because that's your legacy. That's what your bravery created. She looked at the audience. To everyone here, if you hear someone crying for help, be the person who runs toward them. Be the person who says yes to the impossible. Because you might be too late to prevent the tragedy, but you're never too late to save what matters most. The auditorium erupted. Standing ovation. But Joanna only saw one person. She ran, graduation gown flying, cap falling off, down the stairs and into Jax's arms. He caught her the way he'd been catching her for 10 years. The way he'd catch her for the rest of his life. I'm so proud of you, kiddo, he whispered. She would be too, right? Mama would be proud. Sweetheart, she's watching right now, bursting with pride. I guarantee it. They stood there crying while 400 people applauded and cameras flashed and the rising Phoenix MC, 20 leather-clad men with hearts bigger than their reputations, hooted and hollered for their niece, their miracle, their proof that sometimes the worst moments lead to the best things. Later, after the ceremony, Jax and Joanna drove to Peaceful Garden Cemetery. She still wore her graduation gown. He still wore the suit Hammer had helped him pick out because your daughter's only valedictorian once. They sat in the grass beside Selena's headstone, now weathered by 10 years of seasons. Joanna placed her graduation cap on the grave marker. We did it, Mama, she whispered. Look at us. I graduated. Top of my class. Jax kept every promise. He was exactly who you thought he'd be. He loved me when I was broken. He stayed when it was hard. He's my dad. Not by blood, but by choice. By your choice. She traced her mother's name carved in stone. I miss you every single day. But I'm okay. We're okay. And I'm going to help other people the way Jax helped me. That's your legacy. That's what your last act of trust created. Jax wrapped his arm around her shoulders. She picked good. Both of us. Yeah. Joanna leaned against him. This man who'd been a stranger for 5 minutes and her father for 10 years. She really did. The sun set over the cemetery, painting everything gold. A little girl had screamed for help in a diner. A dying mother had trusted a stranger. A biker had made an impossible promise and kept it. And from that tragedy, this, a family. A legacy. Proof that love doesn't end with death, it just transforms. It carries forward in the people left behind, in the promises they keep, in the lives they touch. Joanna Marie Thompson Malone would spend her life helping others because Jax Malone had spent 10 years helping her. Selena Grace Thompson would rest in peace because her daughter was thriving. And somewhere, on a highway headed home, 20 motorcycles rumbled in formation. Still protecting. Still family. Still showing up. The way they always would. Forever. A little girl screamed for help. A stranger made an impossible promise. 10 years later, she's a valedictorian helping others the way she was helped. That's the power of kept promises. If this moved you, like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe for more stories that heal hearts. Welcome to Rhoda's Heart Stories, where every story heals the heart.